Hello. So you guys should be able to hear me. I'm a couple minutes late here. Let's see how this is going to affect me. All right. Well, I'm assuming people are in here. So we're going to begin in about a couple minutes. I'm just going to wait and let people come into it. They should be starting pretty soon. I would think people will start rolling in here. So let's just see what happens and we'll go from there. But everybody should be getting in there. I'm going to leave this top 10 stocks up that we're going to review because I am concerned that last time I wasn't very specific and then we just went on tangents. And we'll go from there. Hey, everybody. I guess I don't really have to type that. I can just say it. Hey, Paul. Hey, Swing Monkey, Luke, LW. Thanks for joining us. Really, I'm just going to leave these up. Hey, Alberto. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to leave these up like last time. I didn't leave them up and it kind of turned into a little bit of a people not knowing which ones I was recommending and which ones I was not recommending. So, hey, AB. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get into it. And then the list of the top 10 are on the right. So you can write them down. It might be further just in case, you're not in a position to sit there and watch this whole thing. At least you get a list of the stocks, I guess is the best way to say it. We're going to begin going over them in about 2 seconds. So just bear with me here and then we'll get going. So, all right, cool. So let's just start. Hey, what's going on, Dwayne? So Paul Swing is the one doing Swing, and there's like 2 other guys that have been doing the timestamps. So let's get into it. Let's drill down into this and let's start. And then I'm going to spend a lot of time today trying to answer more questions. So the first thing is there's a definitive move going on here that's not changing, and it's probably going to continue. And we're going to go over this because I think it's really relevant. Retail is really picking up, and I think that's something that you have to be aware of, right? But also these financial moves are enormous and they're going to continue. And I just want to talk about this so you can understand where we're going. So I've been talking about XLF for a period of time. And if you have questions, just throw them up there and I'll go through the questions as we're talking about it. I'm not going to review another stock until I go through these 10 solely because I think people got confused last time. But the XLF, like this move, this 12-year move, like this is not going to change anytime soon. This might come back down, but if you go into an event with rising interest rates, there are 2 kinds of banks. There's your commercial banks and there's your investment banks. Both benefit from this. So just keep that in mind. Hey, Nicholas. Hey, Stephen. Hey, AJ. So, let's just really understand this, that when you break a base like this, essentially from down here for 12, you're looking at what, a 12 to 13-year base, like that just doesn't change anytime soon. That's going to be around for a long time. So just keep that in mind. Now, that gives us a lot of opportunity on pullbacks and to go start looking for second tier names. And that's really how we came across the first one. So a lot of people won't know this name, and I'm going to start on the daily and then go back to the weekly, but you can see the line already. So this is just your daily chart. And this is a company called Cowen and Company. They are a mid-tier investment bank. A lot of people are not going to be very familiar with them at all. If you trade stocks, you're aware of it. You'll see the name every once in a while, Cowen and Company, and then they'll come out and issue reports. They have some fairly decent analysts. They do a lot of investment banking work. But really what you're seeing here is, you see how this 42, how we couldn't break this 42, but we're respecting the 50-day. So the 50-day is being bought. We're definitely being bought by institutions, right? That's who buys at the 50-day. We're staying above the 21-day, which is what you want to see. But this 42 is giving us an issue. So let's really drill into this a little bit more, right? So you can see on the weekly how this 42 was rejected last week. But you have a little trade going on here where you see how you curved here, you tried to break down, and then you formed a hammer at the end of the day. And if you just take a moment to look at this hammer, and I'll drill into this. If you just take a moment to really drill into this hammer bar, you'll see that that's the highest close we've had all year. So now if you just go back to that and go, let's take a look at this monthly. Okay. This is a base of about 11 years since we've been at this price, since the 2008, 2009 correction in financial stocks. We have not gotten back here. We're there now. Now, what's important about this one as well is just notice this. Okay. Notice the volume that's been coming in the past 2 or 3 months. Okay. This is very substantial, and this will lead, and this is more of a longer term move. Like, this is not going to be a short term move. Once you break above this level, this 42, you have an 11-year base. So you could start looking very clearly as like, this should be your first target, $61. And then you have the bear flag here on the monthly, and then this peak would be your next target, 75. So this has a lot of upside, like a ton of upside for the longer term, and one to definitely consider and put on your watch list. So keep that out there. Oh, hey, Costanza. You mean your name's not Costanza? Shocker. But what ticker is this? You know what? Let me do this, and I will. I'll throw these in so that we can all get on the same page. I wasn't sure if you can see when I have it up there. So COWN is the ticker on this one. So put this one on your watch list, and definitely keep it out there. It's definitely one you want to watch. There's no questions about it. So second name we've already gone over once before, and it's finally broke out on Friday, but it's still just in its infantile stages to me. So I just want to go through this name again because it just broke out Friday, and there was so much going on Friday. A lot of people were not paying attention to it. So I don't think you're going to break the 73 level again on Rick. And let's just really drill into this. Okay. So this was the level where I think you can go to, and this is the top of the channel. And really what we're looking for is stocks that break resistance, that don't have a, that break resistance, that don't have a lot of, what's the right word that I want to use? A lot of overhead issues, right? We don't want overhead issues. We're trying to avoid as many issues as possible. We create enough issues for ourselves without having to go find new ones, right? So you could see this breakout from back here in March, but you look at this volume and you see how we're above average volume here. I'd like to see more, but this is still substantial. And this little break is nothing for this base. I mean, we still have 20 something points here. So the way that I would look at this is I would look for a higher high on this bar, which would take you to about 78 and a quarter. We're going to move in 25 cent increments, usually on any stock, $50 or above. It's just easier. You don't want to just go up a couple points and then reverse on you. But I think you have 20 points here. I think this could be a century kind of move. Now, the one thing to point out with this is a floating target. The longer that this takes, and what I'm going to do is let's move this down for a minute. Let me just drop this over here. See what I mean by floating target? My floating target is the top of this channel. So as time continues, the channel gets greater, right? As that channel gets greater, my target, which is coming from here, right, which started at 90, is now like 105, 106, because the target moves. Okay. So instead of that move, because this is taking longer, you're looking at like maybe 35 points are possible now from this breakout here. So what does that tell you? It forms into this base where people always say this to you. They always say the bigger the bigger the base, the bigger the breakout, right? The longer the base, the bigger the breakout. This is really where that stems from, just to put that in perspective. But in regards to this particular stock, you need to be you need to put this on your list. Like that, having a base this long and now just breaking out of it, it's pretty significant, something that you want to focus on. So Rick is the second one. Any questions on that one while I have you? Um, that's funny, Paul. I always laugh at that name too. Hey, Andy, that doesn't matter. You joined late. I'll replay this, but also just any questions, throw them out there. Can you talk about some medium-term targets where I don't have to worry about watching every day? Yeah, Andy, absolutely. So the one thing I will say to you is you don't need to watch every day. What you can do with these stocks is you can just put your levels in, and if they hit, they hit, and you just look at them at the end of the day. One of my friends that's a fairly large trader, I mean, he does not even sit in front of his computer all day. All he does is come in, put his buys in, puts his sells in, and then wherever the chips fall, they fall. And he just goes on to the next day. So it really depends on the person and how you like to trade. I'm fairly active. I'm not overly active, but I'm fairly active. And I enjoy trading that way, and I make money doing that. But if you don't have the time, I mean, a lot of people have a job. You can't be watching every 5-10 minute bar. So let's just walk through this. Like if you buy Rick, okay, you can put two orders in at the same time. You can put an order, a buy stop on the breakout, and you can put, your stop loss onto here and not even pay attention to it. And then when the buy stop's triggered, you get a notification, you go in and you figure where you're going to want to trade out of it. Now, for me, what I would be saying to you is very simply how I would trade, indeed. And just to kind of get an example of this is let's say I'm in here, okay, because you're asking for like a medium-term target. So let's just say I buy this at $78, just to make the math simple. And let's say that I'm risking, I don't know, the 73. So let's say I'm risking 5 points. So that when I move 10 points, right, which is 2 times my risk, I don't want to I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be down here. So at 2 times my risk, you can do a couple things. And it's up to you and your process and how you want to trade. But when you're up 2 times the risk of a trade, you probably either want to, 1, take some off, which I recommend through the newsletter, or 2, what you want to do is at least at a minimum move your stop to break even. So it's a free trade, and whatever happens, it happens, right? So now you can't lose money. And then, as you go up 3 times your risk, 4 times your risk, 5 times, you just move the stop up. So you go up 3 times your risk, you move the stop to maybe 1 times my risk, right? So, okay, that was $5. Maybe I move the stop up, $5. So no matter what happens, now I definitely make money. You always have gap risk, but the thing is to work and focus on what you can control, not what you can't control. So I don't know if that's helpful. How to put in a buy stop. I didn't even know it's possible. It's definitely possible, Indy. You can put buy stops in. I do it all the time, and I do it even because I'm short, and then I just want, I don't want to get run over. But we can go through that if you want. Not to get too specific on this one so we can stay on topic, but if you want to email me on that, just email me and I'll walk you through how to do that. It's fairly simple to put a buy stop in. You don't need to be staring at these all day long. That's for sure. You definitely don't need to be doing that. So keep that in mind. In regards to, just getting back to Rick, you have a solid 25 points here. And I think that can really happen. I mean, it's at least 25 points from here. And I expect that to happen. But Indy, if you want to, just reach out to me on that. I'm more than happy to walk through that with you. So the next one, and again, you can see all the symbols over here on the right-hand side, but we're going to put them in. This one's very interesting to me because it's very controlled by a few people. It's really family owned, even though it's a publicly traded company. Oh, there it is. It's over there. But now we don't need 2 of them. But just look at this base. So you're really here, right? And then you're really here. But I want to show you this because this is important. So you have a base there. You have the bottom of your base there, okay? And then you have the bottom of the base here. So the one thing that you have to look for is when there's a change in trend, okay? And there's a change in trend in this base, even though it's very difficult. I won't say it's difficult to say, but you should be able to say it a little bit. See how you came here and now this is your new stop. And now look where we stopped before we went to the high part of it. We stopped right here now. So we have a little bit of a change, and these are starting to curl up, which means that they might start having significance. Through 42 and a quarter, if you have a base like this, let's just put this in perspective. Based upon what we see here and the channel, this could be an enormous mover, just enormous. And, retail again is just on absolute fire right now with financials. And, I don't know that that's going to change anytime soon, but if you break through this 42 and a quarter level, right, this is an anomaly based upon some news that hit. And then obviously the news didn't transpire. It was probably another buyout rumor. And then everybody just blew it out because they bought it for the wrong reason, and presented a buying opportunity, actually. But what you're going to see here, if you break this level, you're going to get to that 52 and a half level. It's 10 points. It's 20%. So that's definitely something to put on the list. And if you go through this list, I don't know why there we go. So if you go through this on the weekly, this is kind of important. So you're above the 200 week. You were above the 200 week last week. You're above it this week. And for those that will look at candlesticks, you recognize that pattern. It's an evening star, and it did exactly what you thought it would do, right? So, but this hammer bar at the top is absolutely huge. Now, on this hammer bar, get through that 42 level, and I think that we're in really good shape. So let's just take a look at this, and we'll watch how this plays out, and we'll go from there. FNKO. Well, let me just see if there's any comments on that. I have to look for those videos. Think or Swim, lots of videos, different order types. Yeah. Everybody. Let me get to that question on Rick. Every system has buy stops. I mean, I don't know that you have to have them. I don't know what the security regulation is on that. But they want you trading. They want your volume. So you have to look into it, but absolutely reach out to me on that. You should definitely have those kinds of stops, and let's just, focus on that, but definitely want to look at that. So, and let's just get to, let me just go through this question. If Rick goes up, how do you decide to add to the position? So right now, if Rick goes up from here, how would I decide to add? Let's just go through this on the daily. Okay. So first off, if it went from here to here and I bought it here and it went through, I could add on this next breakout. The issue becomes now I can't add to it if it does it a third time, right? Because after 3 green bars up, it usually is going to come back down, correct? So what I would look for to add to it is I would look for pattern recognition, right? So if I was going to add to this, the way that I would be doing it is going like this, Paul. I'd be going, okay, well, here's a downward trend. When it breaks this downward trend, I'm going to add to it. Okay, it broke it here. I'm going to add to the trade. And then, I'm just giving you an example of pattern recognition, right? Here's another wedge. When we broke this wedge, I added to it because we got above the 50. Here's another small wedge. I added to it again. So there's 3 different ways, right there that you would add to it. So, but I don't know what this is going to play out. But how I would add to a position if I wanted to be into it is the same way I added when we did the AMC trade. I don't know if you follow me on Twitter or not, but once we broke out of an hourly base on a flag, it was a clear indication to add to it. So it depends on the pattern recognition is how I would add to it. That's the best way that I can explain it. That's what I would focus on. So I hope that answers your question. Pattern recognition. Breaking wedges, breaking flags, looking at hourly charts. It depends on your time frame, Paul. So like if you want to trade and you have the time to look at it, like the one gentleman was explaining, Indy, he doesn't have the time. So you can't sit there and look at half hour hourly charts and see if flags are setting up. You just can't do it. I mean, your work's going to look at you like you're crazy. And if you have another job that requires your attention, your attention needs to be there, not looking at, flag formations. So just keep that in mind. But yes, what you want to do is you want to look at pattern recognition. Okay. It's just like when you see something like this, right? Like you knew when you saw this, once you broke the bottom of this flagpole, you know you're done, right? So, I mean, this was a classic short. So what you want to do is you want to become so proficient at identifying patterns, because all they are is human behavior. So the better that you become at identifying patterns, the better off you're going to be. And that's really what you really need to see: pattern recognition, price action. It's why I always preach those things instead of preaching, oh, look at this indicator, look at that indicator. Look, indicators matter. We can get into RSI. I can spend 10 hours explaining RSI. You need to look at the pattern recognition, because that's where people are in, right? Like take JWN, Paul, right? And I know I'm going off on a tangent, but this is important. Okay. This is simple. This is the easiest pattern recognition in the world. Okay. Here's my base. I break out. Okay. There's my stop. Everybody is looking at this, right, and seeing if that's going to go or not. Pattern recognition. If I was in here, this is where I would add. So you want to add, and I'm just saying it again for the thousandth time, you want to add on pattern recognition. FNKO, this is the email address I put up last time. If you have questions, I answer everybody, and I do answer everybody on Twitter, and I answer everybody on YouTube as well. It just gets backlogged. So just understand that, there's like everything now, I think there's like 200 or 300 messages a day, between all the services. So I do get inundated, and I don't mind it at all. I mean, I love it. It's why I'm doing this, to help people. But just email me. Like, if you have something in longer form, don't Twitter it. Just email it now. It's a heck of a lot easier for me to go through it, explain it, add charts to it, and really help you. And I got a couple long ones recently that I have to answer. But let's get into the FNKO, because this is not ready for prime time, but it's setting up for a massive move. So when you have a long price rejection like this, right, and you have these wicks, and you start bumping your heads trying to get through it, first time fails, second time failed, third time failed, right? You say it fourth time. When you finally get through this level and you clear out whoever the heck this is that's selling it, you're going to explode to the upside. This is setting up for an extremely powerful move, and it's a very thin stock. So when you break through this, I clearly expect us to be at 31, 32 in a short period of time. Now, you have a inside day, meaning that this previous bar is inside this one, but look at this as well, because this is really important. You want to find patterns like this. Okay. And I can't stress that enough. Look for patterns that have inside weeks and inside days. They're pretty powerful when they go. And that's what we're really looking for here. Inside weeks, inside days on this one. Look at this. The whole week stayed within this bar. Okay. We broke below that flagpole open. And what happened? We rejected and went up. And remember that these wicks are all price rejection. So we completely rejected selling here on the week, right? And we opened at the high, closed at the low, but we have a little hammer going on. So breaking above this level, and let's get exactly to this level before we move on. So you're basically right here. You're basically at 25.25 is really what you're looking for. If you want to be super technical about it, you really need to be above 25.50. That's really where you need to be. And I think this can get into the 30s fairly quickly. Hey, Naya, glad you could join us. So let's just go through it. So watch breaking wedges. Yes. Does it bother you that FNKO is a bit overextended over the 52 months? No, not at all. Could it come in on that? Yeah, but I mean, here's where you are on the 50-day. I mean, like, this is not ridiculously overextended. And I understand your question, and it's a great question, because like, where am I up over the 50? I'm 25% over the 50-day on FNKO. Like, I'm not up a lot, or like if I was up, like where I get nervous over the 50-day, get me up 100% off the 50-day, and then you're ripe for coming in. But and even on the flip side of that, if I'm down like 50% off the 50-day, you can almost guarantee some kind of snapback. Usually, doesn't mean it's going to last. It just means that it's going to happen. So it's a really good question, and the answer is that no. When I'm down up 20% over the 50-day, that's not even a concern for me. You can scan for inside days and inside weeks, Stephen. There's all kinds of ways to do that. And there's all kinds of different systems that do that. Maybe I'll do a trading tutorial. I have one I want to do on options first, but maybe I'll do a trading tutorial on just different chart programs that are out there. There's some really good ones. Yeah, Swing, I like the FNKO trade. So let's just go out there and just keep on going. So on FNKO, let me know if there's anything else you want me to go over. HAYW. So let's get into this one. So HAYW. This is a really simple trade. This is not too complex at all. What we're looking for is this. Get above that level. Why that level versus this level? It's very simple. Okay. See how we stopped here? 24.79. Where did we stop again? 24.75. Okay. So that's telling you that I have a seller there. Now, why do I like this? I'll tell you exactly why. You have this enormous trajectory that's taken off from here. Okay. It's huge, this angle. And when I break above this and it being a new issue, I have no overhead problems whatsoever. So I could really explode to the upside here. So just watch this 24.79 level. Okay. Getting through that is your trigger on volume. So I want to spend some time talking about this one and then I'll take some questions. Really important to me that people understand this trade. I really wanted to hammer this trade home. And I put it together in the newsletter. And for those that are following that don't get the newsletter, it's free. There's a link in the bio. I'd recommend getting it. There's a lot of tidbits in there. We go through a lot of color commentary on the markets, but let's just roll through this. So there's a lot of people that are like, oh, she's going to have a liquidity crisis. She can't have a liquidity crisis. She's not over levered. So that's not a reason to not own this. A reason to not own this is because you think tech is going to get killed. Okay. But what we've seen here is we've seen an undercut right here. Okay. And now we've seen a reversal starting. I was pretty clear in this in the newsletter. I don't know that this is going to work. I don't know that it's the bottom of tech. What I do know is that I have a channel right here, right, that I've broken out of for the first time. And this is going to base. And I know a lot of people say, don't try and catch the bottom. Don't try and catch the bottom. You're in a market that has changed drastically from 10, 15, 20 years ago. And media and the proliferation of news and the news cycle is significantly faster. So where we had a week to watch and build, we don't have that week anymore. We're turning on a dime and you're seeing the rotations turn faster. So when this snaps back, okay, and I do think it snaps back, you're going to see, at least we get to that 110, 112 level, and that at least allows us to move the stop up to our cost basis and then see if we're right or not. And I just want to point this out because this is significant. Okay. This is the single greatest selling that she's ever had in her index, ever, since in her ETF, ever. Okay. She had more selling here, right, than in March. Okay, so what does that tell you? We came right to this 50 week and all this was rejected. And this is where we closed. And what does this pattern look like for those that understand candlesticks, right? Looks like a Morningstar pattern, right? You get over the high of this bar, which is 108.5, and you're saying that you're going to complete the Morningstar pattern, which takes you to 121. Now we could get to 121 and roll again. Right? I mean, that can happen. So just understand that. But if we complete this Morningstar pattern, okay, which I think we have a really good shot of, I think it's greater than 50%. It's why it's in the newsletter. That gets us to 121. And as you can see, okay, so when we go through this, it's kind of why the target's at 120. One of the reasons. I hope that's helpful. How would you recommend options play for ARK? Nick, I walked through an options play for ARK. KMI, Nad, I'll get to. Hey, Stefan, thanks for joining us. What would I do with ARK? Like I was trying to walk somebody through this the other day and Nat, if you want, email me and I'll put something together for you so you can take a look at it. But I was recommending for the gentleman was interested in a net debit spread on call options. So I was just saying buy the 104s and sell the 117s. I think it worked out to a like a 3.5 net debit spread is what it was going to cost you, and it gave you like the opportunity to make at least 12 points. So I think it was like 4-1 or 5-1. I have to go back and look at it, Nad, but that's how I would play it. Because I mean, it's not going back to 130 by June 18th. I mean, anything can happen, but I don't think you're limiting yourself by doing that. So I think you have to really consider that and go from there. But Nat, if you're really that interested in it, I can go through it. I thought about giving option ideas in the newsletter. I'm very apprehensive because of I'm not there full time with the people for when the market changes. So it kind of scares me a little bit. I feel like a doctor to some point, like do no harm, right? Like that's the last thing I want to do is throw somebody into something that they have an issue with. It's the last place I want to be. Indy, I understand you're skeptical of ARK because of inflation. The one thing I would say is the inflation has already happened and we're already going to watch it kind of come down. Go look at lumber prices. Lumber's up 400%. A 2x4 costs $3. Now a 2x4 is costing what? $7, $8? Inflation's already here. Now we have to kind of see what happens with it. And they're already aware of it. I think they raise interest rates by next year. If you look at the pricing of mutual funds right now, of money market accounts, they're all pricing in a basis point raise in 2022. I'd sell puts below that wick on ARK, makes me a little nervous. Yeah, I mean, I can see selling puts on it. Paul, I mean, if you're comfortable with option, I sell naked puts all the time. You get time value on your side and the volatility as well. So absolutely, I would do that. I mean, it's definitely something I would consider, Paul. There's no question about that. I agree with that. And build a long-term position in ARK. What's your time horizon for long? My time horizon on these things is how long do they work, right? So how long will this work? I don't have an answer. I mean, like if you were going out, like let's just walk through this and answer the question with a question. Like if I got in here in the pandemic pricing in March and I got in this at 33 and I said, okay, I'm going to sell out half when I get to 46 and I'm going to hold the other half to 33. I really don't ever have a reason to sell the stock, right? So it really depends on your cost and where you're in. And that's what I'm trying to explain. Like once you're in, it's up to you. What you don't want to do is you don't ever want to be in a position where you have to take a loss on something you're big on. So you have to be willing, if you want to stay in longer term, you have to be willing to watch this go. Let's say you buy it here and you're in at 104 and you go to 128. You have to be willing that when it gets to 104 to sell it if you break even, right? You have to mentally be prepared to not lose money, right? And not say, oh, this was all my money. It's not your money. You didn't ring the register. Right. So that's kind of how I look at it. Now, over time, as you own positions over years and years, your stop moves up, right? Someone's stop on this, if you're trying to stay in it longer term, let's just say they bought it above the 200-day here. Okay. And let me just zoom in on this to answer your question because it's a great question. And let's just say that I bought it here when it broke above the 200-day. Okay. I could easily just say, I'm not selling it till it closes below the 200-day. Right? Which people do all the time. I'm not going to sell this until it breaks below the 200-day. All right, broke below the 200-day. I'm out. What would I have made on that trade? And I was in it for a year and I didn't have to worry about it, right? And we'll just take a quick look at that. Okay, so on this trade, if you did something as simplistic as that you're up 135% in 12 months. Okay, now that they're all not going to be like that, obviously. I mean, you went through a pandemic, but you understand where I'm going with the methodology. And some people can do it with a 50-day. I would tell you not to do it with a 50-day, right? If you're trying to be in longer term. And the reason for that is people play with the 50-day a lot. It's a lot easier to manipulate the 50-day moving average on things than it is to manipulate the 200-day. So, if you're in longer term, just use that. Use crossovers. I'm not going to sell until the 50-day crosses the 200-day. right? You could use that and say, so you wouldn't even be out of this yet until these two cross, giving it time to see if it breaks and then comes back. So that's how you stay in a little bit longer of a trade. So ATER, I'll take a look at in a minute, and let's just keep drilling down into these. So that's the ARC trade. And AOUT, let's just get into this one. I really like this trade, I like a lot, and I think that this is going to do exceptional. Look, when you get through, and I'm going to say this again, when you get through these big wicks, you can really, really fly. And I think that that's what's going to happen here. I would just look for a higher high on this one, right? So you're really just looking for a $30 print. And I think you could really move. You have an enormous channel here that's going to take you higher. I think based upon the move, you could be looking at $40 fairly shortly on this. You have a base here. And if you look at your base here, just look at this. Okay. So essentially every time you've hit this level, what's happened? Right? It's raised every single time. And the top wasn't raising, and now the top's getting ready. So this is pressure. Okay. And that's what gives it the velocity of the move. And I love moves like this where you open at the low and you close at the high. And if just very simple, I'll just do it real quick so you can understand this, right? So, I mean, you have one trend line here, you have one here, and this is the one I'm really focused on right now. And you can even draw it, like I could even draw it from here, right? And let me just click on this real quick and you can see where I'm going with this. So you have a bunch of different trend lines here, right? You can even draw it this way. Okay. You could even draw it here, right? So there's a bunch of them. But if you look at the larger one, the larger move, I mean, this gets you up there fairly quickly. And I think it's a real possibility. These outdoor stocks, for whatever reason, are really starting to move, and I'm not really sure why, but they really are flying, and I like this trade a lot. So maybe a 5-8. I have a 5-8. I have a 5-8 crossover tutorial. It's actually in that Trade Like a Pro series. I think I don't know how to label things so people can find them, to be honest. But I did a 5-8 crossover video. I'll link it into this so people can find it. And it was when I first started on Twitter, as Paul knows, like when I first had like 100 people. I probably should update it because now I have a better mic and I understand what people can see on here a little bit better. So yeah, but I can even do a quick tutorial on here after I run through these top 10s, just so you can understand that crossover. It's very simple crossover. I mean, it's not rocket science. So, but that's a more shorter term trade figure. Longer term, just if it breaks the 200, you get out of it. I mean, it's really very, very simple. This TYHT, I really like. I really like when you have trajectories like this, where you're exploding up. And look at this volume that just keeps coming in this stock on these explosions up. We didn't get that this time. And that's okay because it didn't trigger yet. You want to see massive volume like this, okay, and get through this level. And you could have another move like this. I'm not really sure what they do. I'm more of a technical trader on stocks like this. But when you have like a triple top like this with these wicks and you haven't broken them and now you're at an all-time high, pay attention to these kinds of patterns. See what I'm talking about? See how this has wedged itself in? Let's get rid of this segment line so you can understand what I'm getting at. See that wedge? Okay. And then you can kind of see if you even use this from here, use the top of this wick and come across, you can kind of see, I can actually draw this a little bit better. So when you wedge in like this, and I don't really like when the flags are in the middle, but when you move like this is setting up for a much, much larger move. So I definitely put this on your radar. It's definitely going to be worth it. Yeah, I don't think that trade's over. Indy, I'll get into FDX and BBY and we'll go from there. But I'll get into all those in a minute. Just save the symbols for a minute from now. And then as soon as I get through the rest of these, we'll just start blowing through everything. So people that have followed me for a while understand that when I see a pattern like this and it starts developing, these can really fly. And this has done two things. that are of significance. And I'm going to get into those two things. So the very first thing we did was, and I'll pull this back so we can really drill into this. So two things that we've done. Okay, we've broken out the top out of this top. Okay, that's the very first thing. You've broken this base. The second thing is you're flipping the channel. When you flip a channel, these stocks go parabolic. And if you follow the newsletter, you've seen moves like that before. And what can happen to them? They just explode up. And this has that potential. This has the potential to go a lot higher. Here, look at this. So this is the weekly on it. And if you just take this weekly bar, because now we can do this, we no longer have to look at that 34 level, but now you're up here, right? And I just want to point this out. You see how this is 37? Look what we did here. The previous week, we opened on the 37 level. Now we're rejecting the 37 level. See why it's important to understand price rejection in the levels? This entire bar was rejected. This whole body was rejected on this move. We opened at the top of this and we never looked back. So that is telling me that I'm going a lot higher, right? That's how I read that. It's telling me that we no longer even want to have sellers where we were a week ago. So that's telling me that we're going higher. So I would definitely put this on your radar. When you flip like this, it's setting up for a much more powerful move. I hope I explained that. And again, swing, I don't think you've missed. I really don't think you've missed this TYHT. I think you're just getting started, and I would consider using that level. So let me just get into the last one, and then we can just go through any questions that people have, and I'm trying to get through these faster so I can spend more time with your questions. But I do like doing the top 10 with people because I think it gives us more opportunity to review things instead of me just sitting here taking questions at first. So here you are, and you finally broke out, and you broke out Friday, right? And now what I like about this is you had an enormous base. Okay, now you've broken out of that base. You rejected here, formed an evening star, came back down, tested this level. This test was rejected, and now we've taken out a new high, closing at a high. Now look at this as well. Okay, here's this enormous breakout bar followed by what? Right, basically a dragonfly on top of it. We're setting up to push. And what I really like about this, you have a break here. And I had follow through on that break. And if you can really get into this and drill down, you can see, and I'll get rid of this one so that we're not closed. You see how you have this line right here? See how this line was tested? It just happened to fall right on that line and hold and then close above. That's telling you that you're going higher. It's tested its channel and said, I reject you. And now it's going higher. So this is setting up, and this is a very simple trade. You could use one of two levels. You can use the high, which is the 110.82 level, right? And you could just say 111, or you could just use this if you want to be 100% sure that it's going to go, or have a higher degree of probability, I should say. And that's 112 that you could use. And this is, again, when you flip channels like this, especially on the weekly, you're setting up for a massive move, a secular longer term move. So that's all I have for those top 10. If you guys have questions, start throwing them out and we'll go from there. I don't know why such low volume. I'm not really sure, SS. I'm not sure why. I need to see greater volume. But I will say this. When you come through a correction, you start seeing less volume. If you go look at corrections, so I think that you'll start seeing that more. To answer, I'll start going through car and tree. We'll start doing ideas right now. And I'll look at your ATER as well. But let's look at this. Ex-dividend, do I think that accounted for part of the most of the move down? Yeah, absolutely. When they go ex-dividend, people sell. There's no question about that on Riley, Paul. I mean, like zero question that's why it was down. You know, I wasn't watching the ex-dividend moves. Which you're going to go to the 21-day and then it'll bounce back. I mean, look, here's your little evening star, and you can kind of see how it reacted. It completed the move. It went to here. It's fine. I see no issues with this whatsoever. It usually provides a buying opportunity the day, or like usually it takes 1 to 3 days for everybody to wash out of those. Um, so let's just start going through these. So tree, all right, Naya, like you're really washed out here. And we don't really need these indicators right now, but you can see how you're rejecting the 50 and the 21. The volume's starting to increase and we're starting to get buying. But before you even consider this, you have to get through this level. Okay. You have to get through that 193 level. So if you want to start bottom fishing on some of these, which people are starting to look to do, and I'm not knocking it, but understand that when you bottom fish, you are in a position where when you're going through, you have all this stuff that you have to get through, right? So keep that in mind. That's why it's so much cleaner buying stocks that are breaking out, because there's no reason for that to continue. So anyway, what I would get through with these levels is this 21 day, this 50 day. There's a lot of issues here that you need to really watch. But if you were really interested in tree, the very first thing that you need to do is you need to get above that level. You really need to get above this 193 level. Start seeing those levels, and then you can start paying attention to it. Let me get rid of this cap lock, and let's do car. So this is just textbook, right? I mean, this just looks beautiful. So you have I didn't know that the Avis car market was this hot, but let's just go through this. I really like this trade, Naya, and I'll just show you why. So you have this volume here. Okay, you've broken all that. You've tested it. You opened at the low of the day. You closed at the high. Okay, now you've broken out. Your volume's not great, but you rejected the 50-day, and this is what you like to see. When you reject breaking an average, what you like to see is follow through. And I know it's a short period of time, but what you've seen already with this follow through is this. You've already seen it break the downward trend. You've already seen it close above the 21-day moving average. So for where you're at now, what I would want to see is this. I'm not interested in the 2-3 points. Get above this 80. What is it? 89.64, call it 90, 87.75. And you're probably going to continue this trajectory, right? So if you got through it this day, you're probably looking at, $96 stock, because you have this trend right here. But I like this trade a lot. It definitely is better than if you were looking at these two, Naya, and you were telling me which one to go with, you have to look at this car. I think that's a really good idea. So, and let's go through this and level request. So let's go through these so I don't mess these up. WCC we just did. Was that controlled by WCC? We just did that one. ATER, let's take a look at this one. So, I mean, this is just toast. You can see, like, here's your channel. You've broken your channel. You're trying to hold. You can't even make a higher high. So this ATER, I mean, I would just be, I would watch this. I mean, your volume's just falling off a cliff. So this is not something I would play with, SS. I would avoid that one. CLDR, EDR, and QFIN. This EDR was one that I was looking at possibly putting on the list, but it didn't do something that it needed to do. So here's your issue with this, right? And I just want to show this because I was looking at this level pretty intently. See how it can't get above that 32? Like, see how many times we tried? 1, 2, 3. And I don't like when I close half up on a bar. Like, that scares me a little bit because that means we might see a reversal. So that's a little scary to me. Really what would get me involved is you have to close above this level essentially now. So really, if you want to play this, I probably would not be playing this long term until I got above 32.20 right now. I can't close above 32. I've tried 4 times. But I understand why you're looking at that. These fintech companies have just gotten decimated, and they're really starting to just show signs of life. But QFIN was on my list because I liked it, and they have great earnings. Their earnings are stellar. But you see how I've broken this trend line and I can't get above it, right? I have to start getting above some of this stuff. And that's why I'm starting to lean people more towards the ETFs and sectors. And then you have this enormous overhang up here too. So this is not something that I'm going to tell you to run into right now. That needs to develop. And you have a ton of resistance points in here. Just you're littered with them. So let me go to new comments and let's see what else I've been missing. Should the recent pullback be of concern? Look, Jack, I'm going to I'll walk through Bitcoin real quick. And for me, there are some real landmines with Bitcoin that are out there right now. Okay. First and foremost, I think people are paying more attention to the fact of they can buy Dodge and make money. They're not really understanding what separates one of these from another. I think that the one thing the crypto market's doing an awful job of is explaining why you need to own these and the scarcity of them and why scarcity in and of itself is not an issue. Like, scarcity is not a reason to own something, right? There's 7 Beanie Babies out there. Do you want to own a Beanie Baby? So you kind of have to understand that, right? They need a better explanation as why this should be used as an inflationary hedge. And so the crypto market has done a really bad job of that, and we're just doing laser eyes. Okay, that's cool. I get it. That's not going to get an institution in. What you have to do is you have to get through a couple issues with crypto, right? And I could talk about this technically, but one of those issues with crypto that you have to get through is you have massive regulatory concerns that are not being addressed by anybody. Forget about the energy concerns that Musk came up with that is causing people to sell the stock or sell the currency. I apologize. But what you really need to focus on is the regulatory concerns have not been addressed at all. Like, we just don't know what the tax is. Yellen threw something out. Oh, we're going to tax it at 80%. Institutions are not going to play that game. They want to know what they want to buy. And corporations are not going to put this on their balance sheet until they know what the heck is going on. To me, Musk's comments were, I think they were sensationalistic. He just realized coal was involved. I mean, like, that's just silly. But let's get into this. So you can see your issues. Like, the fact that maybe this was an anomaly. Maybe it wasn't, this break. But forget that this even broke down here. You just have this H now, right? You have a bear flag and you're rolling. So even if you forget about this anomaly down, you have a bear flag and you're rolling. And what happened with Bitcoin too was but Bitcoin is a store of value. And let me get this out there. I own Bitcoin. Okay. I own Bitcoin. I own Ethereum. And I own them longer term, and I'm just sitting with them. I'm doing nothing with them. I don't even look at them. Okay. But here's my thought process on this. If Musk can move this down 10%, people that are looking at buying this for a store of value do not feel that it's a store of value if a tweet can drop it 10%. And I think that's one of the reasons why you saw Square's comments where they said they're going to stop buying it for the time period. I'm not sure if that's a regulatory concern or not. And I view Musk's comments as sensationalistic. But what do you do with this? You can't buy this here. You need to see it base. I mean, look at where you stopped. Okay. Look at where you're at, 48. I mean, you're just sitting there. We talked about this level before. So you need to hold here. If you don't hold here, you're going to 42. I mean, this is your next level, right? And if that doesn't hold, then you're going to roll. And you could break 40. I mean, look, this is going to be a wild ride until all this stuff is sorted out. That's all I can tell you about that. CDL, the cloud play does not want to play. No, it does not want to play. So, I would just stay away from that. Would you buy SOXL options? No, I would just buy the SOXL. Like, if I wanted to play the options, go for it, but I would just watch it. ATER surged 30% on after hours on Friday. I'm not aware of that. Let's just take a look at the ATER and see if it did surge on Friday. It did. That's great. I mean, I get above the 200 day and go from there. I don't know what the news is on ATER, but that doesn't make me more excited to buy it. I need to understand the news. I have no idea what that news is. So if you want to type it in, that's great. HYRE surged 40% on Friday. Yeah, I don't watch these. So let's do KMI FCX. So KMI. I mean, this just looks beautiful, right? I mean, these names are still acting fairly well. So it's a much slower mover, but what you'd be looking for is that level right there, 1890, right? 18 and a half, get through it, and look at what it's doing. So, maybe these aren't done. Time's going to tell, but look at this, right? I mean, you got to get through that. That's not going away on KMI, right? Like that upper channel is not going to go away. So you really got to get through probably $19 before I would look at KMI, to be honest. FCX, it's why I said I blew it out the other day out of the line. I was pretty clear on this. Just take your money and move. I hope I was. 41.68 is where we got in. We were at like 44, 45. I said, just move on. You completely rejected the top of this. And usually, maybe we'll hit it again and we'll rally up. I'm very concerned about anything that's inflationary based and commodities driven right now, because I'm seeing signs that we're topping. So I would avoid FCX. Doesn't mean that I'm right. P-ton and Penn, do you think they will go down in the coming weeks as a short idea? I think a lot of these short ideas are played out. Everybody all of a sudden wants to be short. Now, the P-ton short, let's just go through this one, right? So let's just go through this P-ton short. So this P-ton short, every single day I'm rallying up. This is my bear flag. If I get through the 21 day and close above the 21 day, and I get above this 97.74 level, every guy that is short, and I'll say guy or girl that is short, is going to cover. Okay. If I get through 97.74 and I close above the 21 day, it means what? It means the bulls are in charge, not the bears. I do not want to be short a stock like that, right? I'm 100% out of that short trade. As people on Twitter will know and follow me. And if I break above the high of this flagpole, no, I do not think it's a short. Now, if I roll here and I break a low, okay, so you see how you have this trend like here. If I break this low, I may look at shorting it with this being the top of it and go from there. But I need to break a lower low. If I don't break a lower low, you can't really go near it. And Penn's gotten decimated. I mean, just absolutely decimated, right? And now you're below the 200 day. I mean, the short's kind of played out, right? I mean, the short was really up here when you broke out of this channel, and the 20 and the 21 and the 50 just crossed and started to roll, and you couldn't get above them. I mean, to short down here after being down, what are we down from the high? This is the S&P curse. You get added to the S&P and your stock falls apart. It's so funny how that works. I mean, I'm down 41% in a month and a half. You need to be careful there because there's real company here, right? There's real value. There's real assets. And let's just go through this. Let's just clean this whole thing up for a moment so you can just kind of see this, right? And let's just get rid of this horizontal line, and let's get rid of this horizontal line so we can talk about this one a little cleaner, right? And here's my channel, and I'm right on major support. This is major support, right? Breaks, can't, breaks, rallies, right? So I'm right on major support, and I'm at the low end of a channel. Do I really want to short here? No. What would be my rationale for thinking that I want to be short? Maybe I run to the top of this channel and I get to 88 and then you're going to come back down. That's a possibility. Sure. I mean, if you want to try and short it, you got to wait till you get to the 21 day, $88. And then maybe you roll back down and you test this level again, 75, 76. It's going to take something. And I don't know what that something is to really crack 76. Right. And let's just look at why I'm saying that. We've broken 76 and we couldn't stay below it. and we tried it here and we couldn't stay below it. And now we can't even touch the line. You see what happens when you really drill into this and you pay attention to detail, right? So here we opened below it and then we closed up here and got jammed into the 200-day. Then we opened on it. Then we opened on it. Now we rejected all the selling in here and now we can't even touch it. And we closed at the high. So I'd be really careful here shorting this. And I guarantee you, and I'm going to spend a moment on this just so you understand this. I guarantee you, if I look at the RSI just by looking at the chart, yeah, I mean, like I am so washed out here for me to consider shorting this at these levels that it just doesn't make any sense. You know, with where that RSI is and how that RSI is actually breaking above that level. So we're actually breaking a trend on it. So I would not be shorting that. So I'm so behind on the comments. DDD, let's do this. And I'm trying to get to everybody's comments. So, I have another 30 minutes and then we'll wrap it up. So I'm just going to stand here and answer questions or sit here and drink my coffee and answer questions. DDD's earnings were huge, man. I mean, they just absolutely knocked the cover off the ball. It's so fascinating because I didn't understand that 20% of their revenues of these 3D printers comes from aerospace, and aerospace is going to be on fire. So I like how we're holding this 200-day. I like how we're starting to get above the 21-day, and we weren't able to do that before. So let me just really get into this so you can see what I'm talking about. See how we couldn't stay above the 21-day here? We couldn't close above it, couldn't close above it. What are we doing? Closing above it, tried, rejected, hit this trend line, right? Bounced off of it, closed above it. I mean, for me, where I would get super interested in this trade, and I think you can be interested in this, is get me above the euphoria. Get me above that 25 line. Get me above that 50-day and that swing bar, and this could rip. You could see a lot of action in this name relatively fast. And let me just go this way with it so you can see what we're talking about. Now that you're above this downward trend line and you've broken above it, your swing to this and your target when you do that is the top of the wedge, which takes you to $34. You're going to get some stops along the way, 28, 29, but this could run. I like this triple D idea a lot, whoever's idea that was. Let's see. Need Predator Eyes. I don't know what Predator Eyes. It's for Hudson Bay Capital announced a $30 million position in it. Okay. I mean, that's good. They have good financials. Great. Yeah, Penn. I mean, you just got to get out of the way. So if I miss some things, I'll go from there. We'd love to know your thoughts on Rick's. Thanks. Raphael, I walked through Rick. It's on the video and I'll set it up for replay. DDD engulfing. Rick is on the top 10 list. I didn't look at the weekly. Let me look at the weekly. Yeah, dude, that's sick. Yeah, nice catch, R. I'm glad. Thanks for throwing that out there. Yeah, I mean, R is definitely he's dead right. I mean, look at that, and look at the volume on that. Like that's really big stuff. And it looks like I had a level here that I was worried about before. It looks like it went all the way back to here. Let's look at this on a monthly while we're at it now, and really get into this. Yeah, I mean, you're above that 2176 level, which is huge on the monthly on DDD, and you really are forming a multi. You're really forming a morning star here, right on the monthly, which would take you to this level, getting above this, getting above the 2430. What is that level? Yeah, I mean, you could even play the monthly swing on this, get above 2430, and that should take you to 29. I wouldn't worry about that 50-day as much. You could, just looking at this, you could get above that 2430. You could play this a little closer to the vest, 2450, and you could be all over this. Thanks for throwing that out there, R. Good eyes. Nice catch. Yeah, Raphael, it's on the top 10 list. But if you don't see it, oh, that's cool. You missed the first hour. I mean, that's fine. Just, I'm going to do this on replay. NIO is scary. I know, bro. Look at that Morningstar, dude. Like that's exactly what we're looking for. But Raphael, if you have questions, just email me or just throw it in the comments on Rick if you're not following along or you jumped in late, and I'll go through it. I mean, it's why we do this rolling. It's why I save it and let everyone look at it again. I mean, I believe in doing the replay just so everybody can see what's going on. So let's go through this. Do you think market conditions in 2001, 2021, I almost said 2001, tells you how old I am, reflect of the reality of trading? Luke, right now, what you're doing is you're dealing with a bunch of people that are sitting at home that got money, that don't understand how to trade, and they're whipping stuff around and they're getting hammered and they're losing their money, or they're hitting big and they're telling their friends. And it's really very scary to me. When I look on those Reddit boards, and I try to get involved in Reddit, but the lack of what people understand about the market to me is beyond scary. Um, and they don't understand that you're swimming with sharks. I say this in the newsletter all the time, and I'm going to say it again to everybody that's listening to this right now. When you invest, you are playing against the smartest, most disciplined people in the world. And the reason why the smartest, most disciplined people in the world are playing this game, and it is a game, is because that's where all the money is, right? So when you are investing, you have to understand whether you're looking for long-term or short-term investments. That's who you're playing against. So you need to act accordingly. This H on OCGM would concern me. Get above the 50-day and maybe, but this looks washed out to me. And someone asked me about this, and and they sent me an email, and maybe they're on this or they're not. Like I love this company. And they asked me about this, and I really want to bring it up because I keep forgetting to talk about this because it's been getting hammered. Like, I absolutely love this company. Their earnings report was stellar. The volume that came through this on BNGO is just stellar. This chart, for lack of a better word, is just absolutely garbage. So I can't buy it. Now, does that mean I'm not going to get the low on it? Maybe it does. I don't know. But this does not excite me like at all. And I understand the volume and I understand the earnings, but I don't want to buy a $4 stock that went to, 540 and get all excited about it only to watch it roll. I do think that somebody like, when these guys get more approved, I do think somebody like this, ILNM, that's them. I got to find this one. I'm missing the symbol on it. But what was there was another one that's in long chain that was going to get bought out, and the name escapes me right now. And then the CDC or the FDA stepped in and said, no, we're not going to let you long gene sequencing and short gene sequencing combine. This type of sequencing, this is the future. This is where medicine's going. So I understand that. I get it. It just could be like, 3D printing was years ago, and we could be way ahead of the curve. This could be years out, but I do love this company. And I do want to do this one too, because I keep getting emails about it. Clove, this is played out. It's done. Okay. I mean, this is completely done. This trade is over. It couldn't break above the 200-day. You're rolling on the 21 and the 50. This trade is over. I can't say it any clearer. It probably bases here. And if it breaks this base, you just need to get out of it. So let me just go through that. And let's just go through that. Let's just go through that. LUMN. I think that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, Lumen. So Lumen, right? Like I believe they're the ones that are in the short gene sequencing, and they're the ones that are looking to, now this isn't it. It's something else. It'll come to me. This isn't the one I'm thinking of. It's in short gene sequencing. I like this chart, whatever this is. Break above that 1415 level. Get above that 1450 level. You could be all over this. It could have a big move after basing this long. You need to see volume, like this kind of volume, for it to move. But I like that trade. I can see why you're looking at that. I get it. Yeah, Clove, just get out of. I mean, seriously, just if you're still in it, I mean, it's done. So yeah, let's just talk about these real quick. So I explained this months ago, and maybe people followed it, maybe they didn't. This completely has decoupled, as it should, from Bitcoin. This is decoupled. This has decoupled from it. You can't be earning $5 million or revenues of $5 million trading on $1 billion market cap. For people that don't know about Riot, if you go back to this level, and please don't tell me this time it's different. If you go back to this, okay, This is when CNBC did a whole study on this company, found that they were working out of somebody's apartment back here when it went to 46 on the last time. Look, we exploded on this. We actually traded it to the long side of the newsletter and did well with it. And, don't shoot the messenger on this, but these companies, they're miners. And if they make money and you want to buy this because the miners make money, then that's one thing. If you're buying this because Bitcoin's going higher, you're going to get hammered, as you can see. Just buy Bitcoin if that's what you want to own. What you would look at, let's say you want to own the miners, okay? If I wanted to own the miners, this would be my signal to own the miners. Bitcoin gets hammered and the miners rally. Okay, that positive divergence might get me interested in them. But other than that, the whole space, like SI, you just need to be very careful. You really do. Yep, that's what the one ILMN. I thought that was it, but I thought I typed it in and I couldn't find it. Yep, that's it. That's the one I'm looking for. So this is short gene sequencing, and they were trying to buy another company before. I believe the one that they were trying to be was PacB Bioscience, and they were unable to do it. They just wouldn't let the merger go through. But I really like this space, and maybe they'll let them buy BNGO because they want to be in the space. But I can't stress it enough. I mean, I think that is the future of medicine. I really think it's going to go that way, and we'll go from there. The whole sector's just hit. It really is. Clove earnings Monday. It could get worse, or it could spike on that Rapini and then Rapani. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Riot was everything. Riot was everything. It is a mining company now. I mean, they do mine. Let's do HYRE. And go from there. HYRE is at, that's a huge move and huge volume. I don't know was there a reason why this spiked like this? I don't know what the news was, but I was of the throw in the towel here when someone else asked me about it. I don't see what you see, and now we're up 30-40% in a day. I don't know why this is like this. Is if there's a huge short position in it or not. I would not be anywhere near this until I understood it a little bit better. I mean, you just look at that. Look where it stopped. So, and I'm not sure it stops there. Look, if you flip this downtrend, right? You could play it. You could play it to here, right? 16 and a quarter. You have to flip this downtrend, preferably close over it if you can wait that long. So, and let's just go through this. TTCF, has it double bottomed? I don't know, Kev. Let's take a look. Has it double bottomed? No, it has not double bottomed. Why do I say that? A double bottom has to undercut. So we tried to undercut. We didn't do it here. We didn't undercut here. What it is doing something positive, and I'm going to overlay something here because I was asked about the 5 and 8 earlier. So let's throw it in here and we'll give a couple talks about this as well. So, just to start with, what it's doing for once is it is closing above the 21-day, which is only done once or twice in how long, right? So you are seeing that. There's a lot going on in this chart. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. Let's get rid of all of this. Let's get rid of all of these. Okay. And let's talk about this. So let's just look at the indicators. Boom, boom. Okay. Now the only thing that you've seen is this is the first time where you haven't hit this, right? You haven't taken out a new low, right? It's the first time. So, why you're not forming a double bottom, this still doesn't mean that you don't bottom. Do you follow me? It could establish another pattern. So it's up to us to try to figure out what that pattern could be. Well, I can give you one right here just by looking at this. Okay. So this is a level, 1860. See how you rejected, broke up, hit here, rejected it, tried to rally through it, didn't. After you didn't rally through it, you came down. That's a real telltale sign this is a level. Tried to get above it, couldn't. So what I would tell you to do if I was interested in owning this is get above this 1860 and close above it. If you close above 1860, this could go. This could move. And by the time you close above 1860, you're going to see a 5-8 crossover to the upside, and you're going to see this 21 start curling up. And I just want to point that out. See how you have a tick here on that that's actually going higher and it's starting to level off. It's telling you that you could bottom. It's very important to understand that you need to drill into these charts, not just look at them like this, right? It's really important for you to get into detail, right? It's it's like everyone always says, the devil's in the details, right? So just keep that in mind. Let me shrink this one down. So that could be bottoming, and I would use that 860 level, 1860 level as a guide. Any tips for low float tickers? Yeah, low float tickers you buy when they pull back. You do not buy them when they rally up. DDD, Friday's intraday play, please. Okay. Well, DDS, I am short. And I'm just going to say, don't do this at home. And the reason I'm short is because this is a retail stock. And for some reason, it decided that it was going to act like a tech stock. That's a telltale sign. Now, what's my stop on it? I am short this through an options play. And I'm not worried about it as much because even as it went up, the options came in what I sold. So, but what do I think about this? Like, I think this is excessive. Gets through 128 and I'm going to have to close the position. I don't have a choice. But I mean, we had huge volume, great earnings. I mean, maybe there's an enormous short position in this that I'm not aware of. My trade was relatively simple on this, and I can get rid of the indicators. I rallied. I got right to that 128, and boom! As soon as I broke that level, this is when I shorted. Okay, and I have yet to get above it. So I'm not overly concerned. You could see this rally down. This would have been your bar that you could have gone long if you wanted to. Like if you really wanted to play this, right? Breaking that wick and that wedge, that's how you could have bought DDS. And then you're in it because you haven't broken that out yet. Nothing has been decided here yet. If anything, I should be concerned that I'm going to get stopped out because, well, I'm not concerned, but you know what I mean. See how it's getting tighter and tighter? Right. And that's on the 15-minute. And if you drill into the hourly, that's just a bull flag. I mean, it's not really making me feel warm and fuzzy about my short position, to be honest with you, but it is what it is. And, I put it on based upon something and I'll just ride it out and see what happens. But, this is setting up. See how it's getting tighter? Something's I hate just saying this, but something's going to happen. That's not going to continue. And if you were a betting person and you're at the high end of a flag, your bet is usually that it's going to break to the upside. So chances are that I get stopped out of that, but I'll see what Monday, Tuesday bring. NBA, iTube, I'll look in those. So hey, SS, thanks for coming by. So AHT, IHT, and we'll go from there. Low float tickers, to say it again, you have to do the antithesis of them, right? You have to do the antithesis. Hospitality suites, this is on the hourly. I would not go near this with a 10-foot pole. I mean, it's very clear that this is being played with. Every rally is being met by selling. Every single one of these, price rejection, price rejection, price rejection. This is something I would be on the other side of, and looking to short. I would be really careful there. AHT. I mean, I don't know what the issue is here and why it's doing this. I'm just in a huge base, and here's your range. I mean, this is your range. $1.77 to, and I don't really like playing with these little ones, to $5. I mean, you can slap it around every time it breaks down here. Just buy it, right, and hope it goes back up. But this is not something that I would be involved with. I mean, you can just see how it's just every huge rally. It's it's being sold. I don't like playing with the low float ones. I'm like the worst person to ask. Yeah, Robert, I get asked all the time for books. I am putting together an extensive list that I'm going to post on a website or on Twitter. And you know what, Robert, do me a favor. If you want, just email me at Arete. Let me just put this in here again so people can see this. If you want an extensive book list and you can't wait for me to put it out there because you're looking for reading, just do me a favor and shoot me an email to this address, and I'll put it together and just start sending you links because it's like 10 or 12 books that I think you need to read. I think you need to read the same books over and over again, not read new books. Right? That's where I stand with it. So for DDS, did you sell at the money calls? I sold a bunch of calls that were at the money. Okay. And I also have puts because the puts just got so inflated that when they moved to that level, it just made sense. So I have a bunch of like 120s as well. And I have a bunch of calls that are sold. And I'm not overly worried about it because the implied vol was insane. And I know I'm going to lose on the implied vol side on the puts, right? But I bought them through a limit order, which I'm okay with it. Maybe there's a frozen rope coming. I don't know. We'll see, Paul. Silver, Indy, like I feel like this trade should work and it just never works, right? Like I just keep waiting for this to work. People are hoarding silver. The price of silver, physical versus this is substantially higher. Like it's crazy, but it's just not working. So let's just go and take a look at this level. And it's really simple. It's a very simple play. Okay. 25.65 is your monthly resistance. I have a huge flag here on a multi-year rally that we're just all sitting here waiting for this to get above. I need to close above 25.65. And I really have only done it like once in 11 years. Get above that, and this could really rally. This could pull like an Ethereum and just go right to this level. You could get squeezed. That this trade does exist. It is out there. It's very real, and I would play that versus playing this. To me, this is just very, very hard to play. PAAS. I mean, look, every month you're just massive selling. So I would just, if I was to play this, this is what you play, and you're there. You're right there. We just need to see the push, and we just haven't gotten that push yet. So that's it. Has square bottomed. How about UNM and NEM and CLDR? I thought we went through that. Maybe we didn't. Maybe I missed it. Hold on. CLDR. Let me just look at this. I mean, the monthly, it doesn't do anything for me. This does nothing for me. You're just sitting there. It's just, I mean, you're just basing. You can just see the line, right? You can just see where you're at. CLDR, it does nothing for me. NEM, Newmont Mining. I mean, it's telling you, right? Look, this is how you have to play gold. If you want to own the miners, you buy the miners. If you want to play gold, you buy gold. I can't stress that enough. The miners can move and gold can stay exactly where it is because there's demand for physicality, right? So you just kind of have to keep that in mind. Usually when gold is rallying, it being a commodity is not when you buy it. You need to buy it on the dips. And I know people play these both ways, but if you look at every single rally here, they've all been met by selling. So it's very difficult to play gold the same way technically, in my opinion. It's just my opinion. But if you were going to do this, you need a 72.5 break on that. UNH. I mean, like the healthcare stocks are acting extremely well. It's not something that I would run out there and buy. I just don't think there's enough umph in them. I mean, here was your break, right? 370. I mean, you're up 10%. It's not the worst trade in the world. I'm not really a fan of buying the healthcare stocks when they're this far above a base because there's not enough juice in them usually. And I don't know anything regulatory that's going to change that. That's it. All right, AB, have a good day. I'm wrapping up here in 4 minutes, guys. Oh, UNM. I'm sorry. I mean, this I get. I don't know what space they're in. I mean, you're in a massive uptrend here, and you've been basing for a while. Here's your key level, right? And you've finally gotten above that. So you've gotten above this 30, 40 here. You hit it here, you rejected here. This time you closed above it. I don't really have any volume though, right? I don't have any volume at all. But I am getting there. I mean, it is rallying. I just don't have any real volume. See how the volume's light? So I would avoid it just because I don't have volume, but that doesn't mean I'm right. It just means that's how I trade. But this is a clean breakout. And based upon the breakout, right? I mean, this is what you're looking at roughly. I'm not going to, well, actually I am because I get anal. So you could see the line. I mean, that's where you're going, $33, $34, and it could happen. It's just not for me because of the volume. That's all. But it could absolutely work. Bid you, Square, Uber. And then I'm going to wrap it up. And Paul, I'll answer your question. Bid you, adjust. You can see what's going on here, right? I don't know. I keep duping these. So, I mean, the 21, you can't get above, you can't stay above this. The Chinese stocks, I mean, I hate to sound like a wuss, but they just scare me. 174, as long as you're holding that, you're in good shape. But what are you having trouble with? You're having trouble with that 200 day. So just, I'd be careful. I would not be running into this. This is not something I would be running into. Has Square bottomed? No, I don't think it has, right? It's trying. We broke, undercut, and now we're trying. I don't know why they stopped buying Bitcoin and they tied their future to it and they're paying for it now. I don't know. I mean, to me, like, look, this is really simple. I can get rid of this one too. Oh, cloned it. Hold on. Let's remove this. And so you can just see what's going on here. I mean, that's your range now. Okay. That's the range of the stock. You're in an enormous base. Okay. Between 207, 197 and 275, you're at a 75-point base. So when this breaks out, and it will, but what would scare me a little bit is you see how small these trends were? See how wide these bars are getting? That usually signifies like a stage 3 move. You have 1, 2, 3. 1's the base, 2's the breakout, 3's the top, and then you form a 3, and then you either go to a 1 or a 4. So but when you start getting wide like this, it usually means that you're going to roll and come in. So I would be really careful here buying this and throwing the bells and whistles. It needs to show me something. It could absolutely 100% go back to the 50-day. There's no doubt about it. It absolutely could. I just don't know that it's going to do that. And I don't know that I'm going to want to stay there and wait for that. So yeah, bid du's a mess. This Rblx, I was just talking to a friend about, and hold on one second, because I did miss something. If you are in a trade above your stop, however, you see 2 to 3 long red bars in 5 minutes, I honor my stop. I honor my stop. The only time I don't honor my stop, the only time I truly don't honor it is when I see something like crazy. If I was in something and it spiked huge and I got and I'm long and I get 3 huge green bars or something like that, and everyone's got to buy it, I usually just hit the bid and get out of some of it and then just move the stop up tighter and tighter. But other than that, the reason for the stop is so that I'm not sitting there second guessing it. AMC was a really good example of getting out of it when I saw something happening. So here was AMC, right? And I was long here on this. So to kind of walk through what you're saying, Paul, I was long this, right? And then I'm forming this break. And then I'm going, okay, well, I don't want to be in this. So then after I broke this level, I'm saying, I don't want to be in this if I break the flag. The low end of that flag, if I break this, I don't want to be in this trade anymore. I'm up 10%. I'll give it some leeway to see what happens. It broke this. right? And I added to the position. You can look at the timestamps on Twitter. And then I ran up, right? And now we'll drill down into it to walk through the action. Okay. Then I ran up on these. Okay. And then I get this huge rejection bar on the 15-minute, and I'm like, ooh. So all of a sudden I moved the stop up to that. And then, the talk comes out. It's this news. Is it old news, new news? It doesn't matter. It didn't matter. The stock reacted. So I moved the stop up to this based upon that bar. I do not want to be, when I see something like this, and it's not just green bars, Paul, it's when I see a pattern that I don't want to be a part of, I move the stop up. So I don't want to be in that evening star. I don't want to see what happens next. I have zero interest in that. You break that level, I'm out. It could be anything, doesn't matter. But when you see something like that, it's time to go. That's just how I trade. I hope that makes sense, Paul. So Rblx, I was just talking to a buddy about this. And then I'm gonna wrap this up. Rblx, look at this on the hourly. And we can get rid of these. So I was hoping it was forming a flag right here. It is not forming a flag, and it rolled. And now I have this. So this is why I didn't chase this when everybody was like, oh, you have to get in. I'm like, it's one day. It's a great day. I wish I was in it that day. I think I traded it a little bit, but now I'm breaking resistance points down. See what I'm getting at here? Like when you leave these lines in, what happens, right? It tells you a story, or it tells me a story, right? So like I'm here, and then, well, I didn't break this, but I couldn't even hold this support, right? I opened above it. They made me think everything was rosy and great, and then they jam it down. Then I can't even hold the downward trend line. So like, why would I want to be in this? I mean, to me, this is telling me I'm going back to 65, 66. I don't know if that's the case, but the one thing I will say, you see, when you have a long price rejection here and a long price rejection here, that usually means indecision and change of trend, right? We just saw that. We just did this trade Thursday on the Qs yesterday, on Friday, right? Because we went through the newsletter, these long-legged dojis and what they could mean. What was the trend recently? The trend was up. Okay, so this is telling me I could be heading down. So I think we're heading down on this Rblx. Thanks, Luke. Enjoy your weekend as well. Everybody, thank you very much. I'm going to do Uber because I think I was asked about it about 10 times. Naya, it's my pleasure. I have so much fun doing this. I do need a cigar. I think I'm going to go out, and I'm actually visiting a friend in Fort Lauderdale right now. I think I'm going to wind up going up to maybe back to Miami today, or I'm not sure. There's supposed to be a really good cigar bar in Naples, Florida. I might travel over there for a little bit. Just do something different. But I am loving just traveling right now. So, and that's the great thing about trading. I just go anywhere I want in the world. Let's go to the Uber. Like, I don't know, man. Like, this is ugly. And, this administration, and please don't get political with me. I really don't care. I'm more interested in making money. They are heck bent. I'm going to try not to curse on trying to take gig employees and make them employees. Just let these people work and make money. Like, this works. This economy works, where you go out and work when you want to work, or work when you don't want to work, or don't work when you don't want to. It all works. So leave it alone. Let people make money. I mean, for me, this 47.71 level's big. Get through that, and then I think you could trade up to this. This is a great example of what R asked earlier about percentages. The fact that I am 20% off of that, and I came down so fast, I'm off the 50. Like, I could just gap right into this 47 and 3/4, and I'd be all over this and take a look at it. So, yeah, Swing, they do have great Cuban cigars here. All right, I'm out. Everyone, have a great weekend, and I'm going to have a new video and go from there. LW, is it the cigar city? Thank you, Ro. Is it a great cigar city, Tampa? People have been telling me I have to make that on my travel. And I'm going to head out west for a little bit. So maybe I will. Maybe I'll take a step there and I'll go and take a look at it. All right, everyone. That's it. Have a great weekend.